Welcome to Wednesday, Hump Day Wednesday, February 25th, 2026. Grant Lawson and the law firm for truck safety want to remind everyone that dangerous conditions can happen in a flash on Wyoming roads. Give law enforcement and snowplows extra space to do their jobs. Please, for everyone's sake, when it's icy, snowy, and blowy, slow down and save lives. Well, we're going to see a pattern that is really good for the mountains, as evidenced by what happened overnight. We'll show you that here in a moment. But plenty of wind, strong gusty winds, and lots of high wind warnings for the lower elevations, as we have these strong jet stream winds racing through the region, but they're driving in these winds a lot of deep Pacific moisture. We talked about the low off the west coast splitting. One of the pieces of those lows coming through today. The other low stays off the west coast. Don't forget about it. We'll talk about that here in a moment because it's going to be a factor later on. We're going to see a cold shot for the northern plains this weekend. We're going to see some cold air leak out of Canada for the Dakotas, parts of Montana, extreme northeastern Wyoming, and out into parts of the plains. You're going to see a dip in temperature, a little brief episode of colder Canadian air. But we can't forget the low that is broken off and stalling off the west coast. It's going to spin off the California coast for a few days, gathering moisture. Then it's going to come inland. And it is looking like it's going to bring a good slug of Pacific moisture into the region. And it may very well be another nice snowpack boost come Sunday and Monday for parts of Utah, California, Nevada, Wyoming, and into northern mountain areas of Colorado. And we'll need to kind of keep an eye on that for traveling. It's kind of a sneaky system. It's going to sit off the west coast and be small, but come in with some moisture. We did see a lot of moisture come in the mid and high levels yesterday along that Pacific jet stream wind. And as evidenced by the shot here in Laramie, you can see the undulations in the clouds on the deeper Pacific moisture, at least coming in at the higher elevations. The snow that fell in Casper last week, well, there's a little bit right here, but it's pretty much gone. Certainly no ice on the pond there. But there is going to be some precipitation coming in, especially to the mountains. But also, there's going to be some rain and snow showers, even a couple of isolated thunderstorms on the plains today. Because of this deep fetch of moisture coming off the Pacific, you can see very well the moisture coming in, but also the enhanced cloudiness due to the strong jet stream winds aloft that are coming in. And we've got a bit of a split flow, as evidenced by the clouds up here in Canada. And you can see this really well in the water vapor. The water vapor showing the deep moisture coming in, the strong jet stream winds streaking out that moisture, then another band of strong winds with a little bit of dry air and calmer winds in between these two bands. And this is part of the split that's going on. Wanted to show you the deep moisture that's coming in today and into the next 24 hours from California through the Great Basin and into here. So we're just physically forcing that Pacific moisture into the mountain ranges. It's pretty mild Pacific air, which is good because this is the time of year you want that water content to be high with the snow. Sure, everyone wants to ski and snowmobile in that champagne powder, but we cannot be picky. We want the snow to have good water in it. And that is evidenced by, look what happened overnight. I'm just going to give you one data point. This is in the snowy range, a place called Cinnabar Park. This is just above 9,000 feet in the Snowy Range Mountains. This is directly west of Centennial, to give you point of reference. 1.5 inches of water content fell from yesterday evening overnight. So fast and furious. So you see the temperature of 28 degrees as of the time of this data grab. So that's some really good water content. And if you look at the North Park Mountains, the headwaters of the North Platte and South Platte, similar amounts south of the border in Colorado. And that's just with what has happened so far. This is exactly what you got to have this time of year as you get into trying to catch up with the snowpack. And the funneling of moisture is going right along here. So it is going to be piping in that moisture through the course of the day today. But as I've been showing you, I don't like showing you these wind maps, but you can see that the wind will be at its worst today and into early Thursday. Now, the wind really isn't going to go away, but it is going to be at its worst over the next 24 hours. And here's the next 24 hours. of precipitation from today through tomorrow. So you will see some showers reaching the plains. Some of this is going to be some banded heavier snow and rain showers, and travelers need to watch this. This is where you kind of get into some snow squall territory in these bands that align with the jet stream. The jet stream causes lift, and you can get some banding of the showers. So we'll need to watch that, but you can see good snow in the mountains and more rain for Northern California. And there you can see the snowfall through tomorrow with this current wave. And we've got a lot of weather advisories. All of the brown is for wind. Avalanche warnings for northwest Montana, part of Idaho here. Then winter storm warnings in the pink. And then winter weather advisories in the purple. So we're going to see very windy conditions on the plains, mountain snow. This focusing in on Wyoming here, showing you the I-80 corridor, plenty of wind. As you get near the mountains, watch out for snow as you go around the mountains there. We go into the weekend. It looks a bit innocuous. Here's the trough getting carved out in the northern plains and the northern Great Lakes. That's going to allow that colder Canadian air to sneak in. And this is important because some of this cold air may get pushed back here. Nothing deeply cold, but a little bit of some coolness gets backed up against the I-25 corridor later in the weekend. Here's the left behind low. The left behind low, though, is getting a kicker from this guy here. So it's going to begin to move. And it's had a couple of days by the weekend to gather up some moisture and spin up a little bit. So as we get into the weekend, here's that cold air I talked about coming into the northern plains and getting close to the I-25 corridor. This may act as a boundary for the next low coming in off the California coast to kind of work with to be able to produce precipitation by late in the weekend and early next week. I did want to show you there is going to be along that cold air boundary this weekend where the cold air meets the Pacific air from Montana through the Dakotas into northern Iowa here in the northern Corn Belt. There's going to be a very long light to moderate band of snow that's going to fall as we get into late Friday, Saturday, and into early Sunday. It doesn't look like much, but it's going to cover a lot of territory of a light to moderate snow band going through those areas. Then as we get into Sunday, the low begins to move. As it does begin to move, it's going to be drawing that deeper moisture in. And that deeper moisture is going to be pushed into the Great Basin. It doesn't look like much, but there's a lot of moisture in this flow. And it may interact with some of that cooler air that's coming down the Front Range. So what we have is a little system, but a moist system. And you can really see this in the precipitable water loop. So this is from late Saturday through late Tuesday. It brings moisture basically into the same areas that are getting the moisture here now. And this is mainly going to be a mountain situation, but look at this fetch. It's going to go right through this area. Now, this fetch could end up here. This fetch could end up down here, or it could end up where the model is showing it, but there's going to be some variation. And notice there's going to be some moisture maybe getting and streaking out across the lower elevations, and where it reaches that colder air boundary, there could be a little bit of snowfall. So this is a nice little fetch of moisture with the second system. So that'll be a nice snowpack booster, probably in this area right here, where they could really, really use it. Then we get into late next week. We'll see what happens, but that next low, the kicker low, comes in. This is a nice placement of the high there. So having some type of low pressure system in the Intermountain West mid to late next week is looking likely really anytime between Wednesday and Friday of next week. So we've got some weather to talk about as we leave February and head into March. Have yourself a good Wednesday. We'll see you on Thursday.